All right, let's get started. Take two. Sorry about that. Technology letting us down. The internet went down, and it took me a few minutes to troubleshoot and then to erase another video that was getting in the way, a second live stream. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, striking up the live stream pre-Super Bowl, Super Bowl Eve, Patriots and Rams, to talk about the connection of college football and the Super Bowl. And, of course, take your calls and take whatever you would like to dive into in college football, with National Signing Day coming up the first Wednesday of February. And, of course, about 85 to 90% of the main players for the Power 5 and the FBS are already signed, but that still leaves a number of valuable gems still out there to be plucked up by schools across the country. So, again, my apologies. We had the live stream scheduled for 8 o'clock. We were on the line for about 15 minutes just getting into it, and then the internet went... And it just took me a while to troubleshoot. I'm quite the technician, but basically it meant that I shut everything down and then turned it back on and went through all the green lights flashing and going yellow and then flashing and then coming full and finally making it back on. Then I started another live stream and nobody was joining. And I was happy to see that for the first 15 minutes, we had 104 people watch already. And so I was a bit... disgruntled that I'm making things confusing for you, because we had 104 people watching, and I left you all just kind of hanging there. And so then I started the second live stream, and I noticed after a couple minutes, nobody's watching. Nobody's able to find the second link. So I thought, you know what? Let's shut this down, and I'm going to set up a third live stream for a later date, meaning it was 8:36, and I've set it up for 8:45, and hopefully everybody could catch up with us. We've got a handful of people on the line, and in respect for you, even though we don't have 104 on the line, we've got 4. We're starting the college football conversation. All right. So let's see who's on the live chat. Not many. We've got about 5 people on the line. Savage Kane 305 is number 1. And then we've got Nate Greenfield. Have you seen the Uncle Lou video? I don't know what you're talking about. I've not been watching YouTube videos unless Elvis Presley's on them, or that's a few other things. I don't watch sports videos much unless they're actual playing videos. I'm not a big YouTube guy. I'm a YouTube guy that is big on YouTube, hopefully in the future, but not watching a whole lot of YouTube videos. Uncle Lou's great. I definitely support him. We were in the midst of actually talking about that because I was being asked by the caller, Deep Barat, about various YouTubers and watching YouTubers, and I just shook my head and said no, that I hadn't been watching many YouTubers, and I don't. But there's a number of folks that do a nice job. All right, so the number I will put in the live chat is 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. And I will get the thing started by talking about, first of all, what's available here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Recruiting updates all over the place, from Miami, Ohio State, Virginia Tech, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Auburn, Texas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. We've got TCU coming up on Monday. We've got Oregon coming up in a few days. We've got USC coming up soon. UCLA is already out. And probably a number of other schools that I've missed, Notre Dame in particular. So a ton of recruiting updates. Check those. We have had a few guests, prominent guests from 24/7 Sports in the last couple of days. Mike Roach and EJ Holland providing their perspective on Texas recruiting and the Big 12 and the state of Texas and the Southwest. Some excellent conversations with those gentlemen in the last few days. Also, my college rankings, my Power 5 rankings. Forget it. I was going to reference those. My Power 5 rankings will be released very soon. So I'm breaking down the metrics of all the Power 5 non-conference games from the past season, as I have each and every off season. It's my favorite project. And I just ran through it this afternoon, actually went through the metrics and the calculations, and I'm ready to deliver it to you. You are going to be shocked at which conference played. I'm not saying this conference is the second best conference in America. I'm saying in their 19 games against the other 4 leagues, they played the second best football. They had the second best results against like competition in their 19 games. And I believe the conference only went 9-10 against the other 4 leagues, but also consider that because of the success of Notre Dame in particular, that there was only one conference that went over 500 against the other 4 leagues, including Notre Dame, BYU, and Army, including those 3 schools as Power 5 schools. So we took the entirety of the Power 5 plus Notre Dame, BYU, and Army, and we ran through all the results and we put them into context. So we do this each and every offseason. People love it. It's fun. I like it. I like breaking down the metrics and getting past all the opinion and basically saying, in a closed experiment, if you look at the Power 5, this is how well each league played against the other 4 leagues this year. These statistics this model cannot be disputed. Not to say that this is the best league and this is number 2, 3, 4, and 5, but to say this is how well they played against the other 4. I will cut a video to kick off the series to explain how I do it, but this is basically what I do. I take all the results of all the Power 5 games, non-conference games. Of course, you don't take the conference games because it's every league playing against itself. It's meaningless from that standpoint of comparing the conferences. It's meaningless. The only games that matter are the games that they play against each other. So I take all those games, and then I take every conference and I seed the teams 1 through 10 if it's the Big 12, 1 through 12 if it's the Pac-12, and 1 through 14 if it's one of the other 3. And then I have to adjust the seedings because, of course, if you're comparing the Big 12 with 10 teams and the SEC with 14 teams, the seedings don't match. If you're the 3rd place team in the Big 12, you're 3 out of 10. If you're the 3rd place team in the SEC, you're 3 out of 14. So you should have a higher seeding, if you follow me. If you were 3 out of 10 versus 3 out of 100, well, if you're number 3 out of 100, then you have a much higher ranking than 3 out of 10. So I have to adjust the seedings. So the number 1 seed in the Big 12 is actually a number 1.4 seed. So I do all the calculations of adjusting the seedings. And it's just a slight adjustment, of course. And I base it on a 14-team league since we've got more 14-team leagues than any other configuration. So the SEC, the Big 10, and the ACC have 14 teams. So I base it on a 14-team league across the board. And then what I do is I seed the teams based on the standings. It's not my opinion. I seed the teams based on the standings. And then I give weight to every game. So, for example, Clemson beat Alabama in the national championship game. Clemson is a 1 seed in the ACC. Alabama is a 1 seed in the SEC. Each game starts worth 14 points. Every game is worth 14 points because we've got 14 seeds in each league. So every game is worth 14 points. Clemson beat Alabama. So Clemson gets 14 points for the ACC, and Alabama is credited with negative 14 points for the SEC. So if you're just taking that one game, the ACC is plus 14. The SEC is minus 14. Let's take another example. LSU beat Miami. LSU turned out to be a 5 seed in the SEC, and Miami was an bad example. I think they both turned out to be 5 seeds. No. LSU 5 seed in the SEC, Miami number 8 seed in the ACC. So LSU wins over Miami. So that's an SEC win over the ACC. But LSU's a 5 seed. Miami's an 8 seed. So the way that season played out for each team, the 5 seed should beat the 8 seed. It still needs to be credited. It's still a good win for the SEC, but it shouldn't be credited as much as a team beating a like-seeded team or a better-seeded team. So I take away those 3 seed difference points. The 5 seed beat the 8 seed, LSU over Miami. So a 14 seed for the game, the 14 points for the game, there's 3 deducted because the 5 seed beat the 8 seed. So those 3 points, those 3 seeding levels points are taken off the 14 points for the game. So the SEC is credited with 11 points and the ACC is deducted 11 points. That's how I work it out. And then I take all the point totals of all the wins, and those are credited to the league in a positive manner. Then I take all the points for the losses, and those are deducted. So I will shoot a explanation video to launch the series, and then we are going to unveil our findings of which conferences aren't necessarily the best, which conferences played the best, had the best results. And number 2, I believe, is going to surprise you. So Savage said he's calling in. Next person to call in, I will take the call. Sorry, I had the phone over here. 860-325-3687. Miami Hurricanes time. The number is for the call-in. Savage King 305 is calling in. Clemson alum 98. Clemson wins versus Texas A&M, South Carolina, Alabama, and Notre Dame should help the ACC. Are you kidding me, Clemson 98? Clemson basically carried the ACC. They carried the ACC. There were basically 2 teams that played well against the non-conference in the ACC, and that was Clemson and it was Duke. The rest of the ACC was horrendous. The league was the worst conference in America. I don't care if it produced the national champion. The ACC was the worst league in America. Look at the results. They're horrendous. They are horrendous. See if I can dig them up here. MCD Sports 4, thank you. I'm back. Took me a while. I got to find these ACC results. Shoot. Anyway, the video is going to be out in due time. The ACC was horrible this year. Awful. The ACC was horrendous. And the Pac-12 was not nearly as bad as you might think. All right, here they are. It's going to ruin my video series to a certain extent, but I just got to get to this. All right, here we go. Finish at the rim. Lamar, I always finish. I'm a finisher. Some people are finishers in life. Wink, wink. I'm not that full of myself. I'm just kidding. All right, so ACC. All right. The ACC won 8 games. They won 8 games against the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC. They lost 18 games. Now, I don't run with that and say they're obviously awful because they went 8-18. You got to put the games into context. Yes, Clemson won half of the games for the entire conference, a 14-team conference, and Clemson won half the games. They beat Notre Dame, they beat Alabama, they beat Texas A&M, they beat South Carolina. They beat 2 of the best teams in the country, 2 undefeated teams, and then they beat Texas A&M, who was a strong seed in the SEC, I believe a 6th seed, and they beat, South Carolina, the 9 seed in the SEC, a team that finished the regular season 7-5. Duke. They won a bowl game outside the Power 5, but we're going to look at those games as well because a team needs to be docked for losing specifically to FCS and weak group of 5 teams, and also have to be credited for beating the best of the group of 5. An Oklahoma State win over Boise State by 3 scores needs to be credited to the Big 12. So we have factored that into a certain extent, and we'll get to that as well. But consider the ACC. It's atrocious what happened to the conference this year. Atrocious. Clemson lifted the entire conference by itself. Clemson. This is Clemson. This is everybody else. A dumpster fire in the ACC. Duke, except Duke. We will credit Duke. They beat Northwestern, the 3 seed in the Big Ten. They beat Baylor, who was the, I believe, 8 seed in the Big 12. Baylor, something like that. They beat Baylor. And was that the other Duke win? Did they beat somebody else? There was somebody else in there. Yeah, I'm not coming up. I don't have all the games right in front of me. I just have the results of the numbers breakdown. But my goodness, Syracuse was the number 2 seed in the ACC, and they lost to Notre Dame by 33 points. They did beat West Virginia. I hate to put that into the measurement, but it counts. Of course, they played. It counts, but that was not West Virginia at full strength or anything close to it. Florida State got trampled. Louisville got trampled by Alabama. Here comes the call. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
The call will start at the beat.
Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? It's DeAndre.
Hey, DeAndre. I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Yeah. I went back and listened to our last conversation. Man, you know, I work about 2 or 3 jobs. Love my kids, but they expensive. But what I'm about to say is that I would talk about an NCAA football game on the video game that you're not a fan of, not that you're a fan of, not a fan of college football. And I know you had to look on your face like, I'm not a fan of college football. I've been to football game. I know I tell you I play sometime to pass the time. The old versions is there are people that update the rosters every year. I don't know how they have time to do it. They must don't have no life, but I appreciate their job of going back updating some of the rosters. Second thing, and I was talking to Pinsky and Pete, and when I say I shouldn't have said great quarterback, I should have said pro quarterbacks. I don't think the SEC has great pro quarterbacks that need defense. I mean, good pro quarterbacks. Any type of pro quarterbacks outside of Tua from, I guess, the guy in Missouri, he'll be a pro player. I don't know about Kellen Mond. He's a good guy, good quarterback. But that's what I was saying, that I don't think the SEC has good quarterback play outside of those 3. I think the guy on Miss is pretty good. But I don't think they have a good quarterback play in there compared to what the ACC got. I don't want to throw out any crazy stats because I really don't know. But I think the ACC right now got more quarterbacks playing in the league that are starting quarterbacks right now. Am I correct?
Okay, DeAndre, you're going a couple different directions. Let's pull it back in here for a second. So I'm trying to clarify this because you're talking about, on one hand, you're talking about the kids still in college, but now you're talking about the guys in the league. So
what I'm saying is the quarterbacks in the SEC defenses from our last conversation look good because they're not playing any good quarterback competition. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I remember our conversation. So, yeah, you were making the point that, yes, SEC defenses are good, but maybe we overrate them because they're not playing top-level quarterbacks. And I know that our conversation went into the Big Ten and some other leagues because you had mentioned that there weren't many good SEC quarterbacks. And then I basically made the statement, what league has the best quarterbacks? And we started to go around college football. So are we going to stick to let's stick to the NCAA right now. Let's stick to college play right now, and then we'll dive into the NFL.
Right.
All right now. And we'll include the kids that are coming out this year as college players. We'll include everybody that played in 2018. So off the top of your head, let's look at the ACC. Who's good in the ACC? Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is outstanding. He might be the best quarterback in the country.
I'll go with Finley.
Ryan Finley. Ryan Finley, very good quarterback.
Okay. The kid out of Duke. Williams.
Daniel Jones. Yes. Good quarterback.
That's 3. I think the guy to Syracuse.
Yes, Eric Dungy. Good player. A different style quarterback.
Yeah. The kid at Virginia, I think he had like 2,987 yards passing this year.
Bryce Perkins.
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's now will he be a pro quarterback? No, I don't think that he'll be
I don't
a
think
pro
so.
quarterback one day. Yeah. I hate to say this, but I think DeAndre Francois gets a bad rap. That defense that was a lot of just terrible.
It is terrible.
I mean, I remember 2 years ago, he just got absolutely murdered against Alabama, and he didn't have much to say. I don't think he even started the game against them. Close, I think Blackman did this year. I'm not sure. Yeah, he did start against Clemson. And I think the kid at Wake Forest is pretty good.
Our guy Lamar Stevens on the line on the live chat is saying that the Big 12 has the best quarterbacks, followed by the Big 10, the Pac-12, and that's his top 3 in terms of quarterback play. All right.
I'm going with the Big 12. Big 12 has a good quarterback.
Okay, so those are your 5. Are you selecting anybody else out of the ACC as a good quarterback? Are those your 5?
Let's see. I'm not gonna pick Pickens. How you throw for 5 yards in the ACC championship game?
Don't dock him there, DeAndre. He had 8 yards. 8 yards passing. Let's not take anything away from him now. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
When I saw that statistic, I couldn't believe it because I thought they were down by 4 scores in the fourth quarter, and he still couldn't complete passes. Anyway, yeah, okay. So those are our 5 quarterbacks. So if you go to the Big 10. Your best quarterback's Dwayne Haskins. And then your second best quarterback, I guess, is Shea Patterson. And then probably Trace McSorley in some order, those 2 guys. And then after that, C.J. Thorson, the Clayton Thorson is from Northwestern, would be a decent quarterback. And Minnesota, Illinois, Nebraska. The kid at Nebraska should be good at some point. Oh, Nathan Stanley. Well, you remember during our discussion, I went to Nathan Stanley. Yeah. Man, I would have to. I can't sit here and compare like groups of 5 and 6 quarterbacks. I would have to like sit there and list them in order in each conference and then make a big comparison. Maybe that's another video that I do.
Yeah. My problem is because I finally got to sleep. Sometimes when I talk to you, I don't get no sleep. I'll be out here working all day, and my point is that the SEC is a very great conference, and the Southeast, the Southeast conference of this country, you got a lot of people moving down here. So a lot of the talent is down south now, no matter what conference it is, SEC or the ACC, or, the reason why I say that, because if you look at back in the day, a lot of the talent was up north, like in Ohio. Ohio State, because of the steel factories, Ohio State, Pittsburgh, Penn State, those schools were great, even Michigan, because the rest of it had all the talent, because that's where all the jobs were.
Yeah.
Now everybody's moving back down south. Even if you go back to Maryland, a lot of talent came out of that area. That's why I can't understand why Maryland was bad there. But I just think that the South period has a lot of talent. But I think the SEC just does not play against good quarterbacks. And I understand, I'm not going to say the ACC was the best conference, because in all honesty, it wasn't. But you said the ACC was 8-18, right?
Yes.
I just don't think there's no great conference. I think you just have 5 good teams. You have Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame. And those were just the best teams this year. I mean, Mississippi State beating up on Kansas State, who has no offense, doesn't look, to me, is not a good win, because Kansas State wasn't a good team. I know they gave Texas a heck of a game, but they're just not a good team, in my opinion. I just don't think there's no great conferences this year.
Why did you select that game of any game, the Mississippi State Kansas State game, to make your case?
Because I know that's one of the Mississippi State's big games out of conference this year. That was one of their big games out of conference.
It was their only game out of conference.
Oh yeah, that might have been, but I think I watched that game and it was terrible.
Yeah, I watched it too.
But I just don't think there was any great conferences this year. I think you just had 5 great teams. And I think if Ohio State came to play the ACC, they would have dominated. I think Clemson would have went to the Big Ten. You take Ohio State out there, I think Clemson would have beat everybody by 20 points, which helped Trevor Lawrence, just like they did the ACC. But I don't think there's any great teams. There were any great conferences, not teams. I don't think there was any great conferences this year. I don't think conference play was all down everywhere. Look, Duke beat Northwestern by 21 points. I heard you mention that game.
First of all, they beat them by 14. Let's be accurate. They beat them by 14 points.
Okay, 14. But Daniel Jones left the game.
Okay.
After that, and like in the second half. So I'm just saying, how many more points would they have put up?
Well, let's also understand that Northwestern's quarterback Clayton Thorson wasn't healthy. So let's understand that as well.
He completed the game, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he played in the game. Hang on just a second here, DeAndre. Just give me just a second here. So I'm getting indication on my one computer that we're not here, that I'm not on, but I'm looking at my return and I see that everything's fine, but my other computer's getting no internet. So anyway, does it look like I'm still on here?
No, I turned you off the call because I'm about to go to work.
Okay.
I just heard you talk about the ACC, and I just wanted to put my 2 cents in.
Yeah, I was knocking on your league.
Yeah.
All right, DeAndre.
I just take offense. I don't take offense to it because I really don't care. Because a lot of people. I was talking to Pinsky and Pete. He don't like South Carolina, but I can't say it. I don't dislike NC State or Florida State, but I just remember those 2 teams in Georgia Tech at beating Clemson when they were really good and just knocking them off. And compared to some of the compared to South Carolina when Clemson was really good, I don't think South Carolina ever knocked Clemson off when they were really good compared to with South Carolina. I think Clemson was ranked number 3 in the country one year, twice. One time in the 80s, and I want to say after Phillip Rivers left, and they knocked Clemson off, and and we thought Clemson was gonna have a very good year. Florida State, some of the whoopers they put on us, that 59-10 felt good this year. I mean, Florida State's still Florida State. I mean, they're a national brand, and I know they'll be back in the next year or two. But I was just happy Clemson was able to put it on them this year. Like this last year, whatever we're going to count it. But, Bart, you have a great nap, man. Keep on listening to the show while I'm out here working. And I'll talk to you pretty soon, sir.
DeAndre, we appreciate your support. It's awesome, and I know you got a lot going on there, so I appreciate you checking in.
Yes, sir.
You have a great night.
Have a great night.
DeAndre, my man, I knew that he was going to call in talking about the ACC. I have been ripping the ACC. This is very odd. So I've got my main computer right in front of me where I'm utilizing the camera. And then I've got my laptop on the side here in which I check out the live stream and the live chat and talk to all of you and see your responses in the live chat. And it is showing me like nothing. It's blank. It looks like that. It says no internet. And I refresh and restart and do all these things, and I've got nothing. So I'm going to try to catch up with the live chat on the phone here. And keep in mind that we do have our call-in line open at 860-325-3687. All right. It's a mess around here. Yeah. 860-325-3687. Let me check out the live chat, and I'm not going to spoil my findings and my metrics on the conferences anymore. So I will not talk anymore about that. But basically, Clemson lifted up the ACC. Duke had 2 or 3 really good wins out of conference. Baylor, Northwestern, and the bowl game against a group of 5 Temple team. And that was pretty much it. Syracuse beat West Virginia. Virginia had a nice win against South Carolina, but keep in mind, even though South Carolina was the favorite and most of us going into the game believed South Carolina to be a better team, Virginia was the 6th seed in the ACC. South Carolina was the 9 seed in the SEC. So the thing I'll say to DeAndre and whomever else is going to disparage the SEC's performance last season, the SEC is the best league in America. The Big Ten is most likely second, but the SEC is the best conference in America, and the results from last season will certainly prove that out. Starting with the Auburn win against Washington, who won the Pac-12. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Yo, Mark, this is Lamar.
Hey, Lamar. How are you?
Doing good. We're watching the PJ match and hanging out on the couch.
What are we watching?
Me and the baby. PJ match. Disney Junior.
All right. I know nothing about that, but my kids are up and grown.
Your favorite show? What are you talking about?
It has passed me by. Well, what's going on tonight, Lamar? What's on your mind?
I wanted to ask, I'm thinking about the college football recruiting. You know how there's 2 signing days now, and we're coming up on the second and final signing day.
Yep.
For this season, and I want to talk about who the 2 signing days benefits and like who it kind of hurts. Like, thinking about it this time of year. Because my memory of this time of year, like at least last year, we had 2 signing days, but we didn't wrap up Derek. When I say we, I'm talking about LSU, of course. We didn't wrap up not Derek Stingley, Patrick Surtain.
Mm-hmm.
And Alabama came in and had a final visit and, swooped in and scooped them up. And this year, that kind of thing isn't happening. LSU's got 19 guys signed, and there's a few guys not signed, but they're not the really big targets like John Emery or Derek Stingley, top 10, top 20 recruits in the country. And I think that there being 2 signing days kind of hurts big, heavy-handed colleges like Alabama, because at this time of year, teams like LSU who don't have as solid a hold on the recruits like an Alabama would. Seems like LSU can come in and try to recruit Alabama guys, or come in and try to and you don't have to play defense as much while you're recruiting. Like a lot of recruiting, you end up having to go back and let's go re-recruit these guys and make sure they're still good. Otherwise, Ohio State's gonna come in and get him, even though he's committed. Like you don't have to worry about that. And I'm thinking that hurts those heavy-handed colleges. What do you think about that?
When you say heavy-handed colleges, I don't know what you're referring to. Who's that?
All right.
Who's heavy-handed?
I'd say a guy commits to Ohio State.
Yep.
He's probably gonna stay committed, unless something drastic happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like a coaching change. The guy commits to Alabama. That guy's probably staying committed to Alabama. So they don't have back in the time of pre dual signing classes, you don't have the case where when those guys commit to those colleges, then those big players like a USC or like Oklahoma, like an Alabama, they can just come in and constantly recruit offensively. They can recruit your players or other colleges players that are already committed, and they can keep on recruiting their guys and keep going forward. They don't have to look back and re-recruit guys as much as another school with a lesser pedigree would have to. And that was an advantage. But now the guys are already signed, except for that one kid from USC. Somehow he signed and got out of it. You don't have to recruit backwards anymore. Not as much.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when you mention these teams competing against each other for these recruits and how much the early signing period has impacted that and who it favors is the schools that you mentioned that are all the elite of college football. They're competing for the same kids. So it's not like Alabama's competing with Kansas State for recruits. So I'm finding it difficult to distinguish who would have the upper hand between Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Florida State, and Florida going after a kid.
Your definition. your definition of heavy-handed is more broad than mine. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it does, because I'm not making a distinction between who's heavy-handed and who's not. I'm not getting your definition there.
Well, that's fine.
Well, I'm not saying it's wrong.
Like,
I'm just I'm not understanding it.
So when I look at an LSU and I look at an Alabama,
yeah,
I always feel like Alabama, if there is only one signing period, Alabama always has a chance to come in and, like, you know, recruit those Louisiana guys, whether they're committed or not. It's almost like it doesn't matter if they're committed. It's like, we can still go get that guy. Let's focus on these, like, you know, these other national guys, and we'll treat Louisiana like it's an in-state, and we'll come in and get those guys anyway. And they're effective at it. They do it.
Well, for whatever schools, Lamar, you're talking about that are able to come in and cause these kids to flip to them, they actually have less time now to do that than they used to, because 85 to 90% of these kids are signing in December instead of February.
Exactly. That's why it hurts them. It's almost like evening the playing field. I know everybody's playing by the same rules, but like this time of year, February 2nd, when when that was the only signing day, you never knew what was going to happen. Guys, you think you have guys locked up, and all of a sudden, you know, you lose like one or two guys, and you don't get the guy that you were hoping you were going to get that day. And, you know, we got 19 guys signed, and they're solid. Like, you know, at this time of year, I'd be worried. I'd be like, oh man, I don't know. Alabama trying to swoop up John Emery. He was coming to Georgia before, or Derek Stingley's been saying he loves LSU, but you never know. He's got that last, you know, visit with Alabama, or that last phone call, that last in-home visit. Just don't know, but I feel so comfortable right now. It's just not a familiar feeling.
Well, I'm not going to discount what's going to happen in the next few days, because it's very important, because we still have about 10 players out of the top 100 and 30 out of the top 300 that have yet to be signed. But obviously, most of the kids are already signed. So it's not like a team is going to have the third best recruiting class in the country and they're going to drop to number 13. There's going to be very little movement in the rankings between now and National Signing Day, because everything's just about locked up.
Makes sense. So I guess like, you know, to answer the original question, it's just, you know, par for the course, I suppose.
Yeah, I can't look at the rankings over the last 2 years and then look at the previous rankings prior to the early signing period and say, wow, this has really hurt this school or helped this school. I know that most of the coaches I heard from going into it last year were skeptical. They don't like change, just like most people don't like change. But once they experienced it, then they liked it. That's what I heard.
I think because of the bowl games and everything happening around that time, and, like, you know, the preparations, I don't think some of those you know, higher end schools like it. I think they like to have the ability to, like, try to go flip a guy. Like, the fact that they can't flip people right now, it's like taking a couple of, like, key players away from them. Like, you know, there might be a team that's like, oh, we really need offensive linemen, and they might be able to, like, you know, pull it good just because, like, hey, the playing time is there. But you know, it's a little too late, right?
I'm not seeing it, just because, again, pick your kid. Pick a kid who's one of the top players in the state of Florida, and he's looking at Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Auburn, and Georgia, let's say. Okay, right. 3 years ago, he would have been there for the taking and to be flipped back and forth and change his commitment until the first week of February. Now, most likely, he's signing the first week or the second week of December, okay? Well,
right.
So obviously, as you mentioned clearly, once he makes that determination and signs his letter of intent, the recruiting process is over. He's shut down. He's signed, and those other schools that lost out on him didn't get that extra close to 2 months to recruit him and get him to flip. But he's still signing to one of those schools. So I'm not making a distinction over who had the advantage and who had the disadvantage there.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I don't know who that is. I don't know who that would be.
Regardless of where he ends up, it's going to be one of those schools. It's going to be Clemson. It's going to be Ohio State. It's going to be Florida State, usually, like, when they're up. Something like that.
Yeah, I just can't make the statement to say, oh, so-and-so signed with Florida State because they had time to flip him. And if it were 3 years ago, he would have signed with Florida.
Yeah, because you can't know. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
All right, Lamar.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking. Other than that, yeah, I'm happy with those user pretty much. It's pretty top-heavy as far as, the type of quality over quantities right now. And there's a few, like, big targets that they're going after that they're actually on campus right now for the last visit. And we're going after 3 Alabama guys, and we don't get to go after 3 Alabama. Like, and when I say 3 Alabama guys, I mean 2 of them are committed to Alabama but didn't sign, which is almost like a non-commit at this point. And one of them is a guy that was considered a big Alabama lead. So hopefully we get 1 or 2 of those guys. But I don't think that would be the case in the past. I don't think LSU would have time to try to out-recruit Alabama for guys that are already committed to Alabama. They'd have to play defense on the ones they already had. So,
all right, Lamar.
It's a personal problem when I think about it. All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. You have a good one. Our man Lamar Stevens, big LSU fan, on the line. All right, let's see what you guys have in the live chat. What I wanted to get into was the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl connection to college football. Also want to remind everyone that the Super Chat's open, so if you'd like to contribute to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, please do. And just keep in mind that, again, the aim, the aspiration, the big vision here is to go full-time with the YouTube channel, despite all the content that you see produced compared to other YouTube channels and YouTubers who do this full-time. I'm not anywhere close to full-time. Well, actually, I do this full-time, but I've got a full-time job as well. So that will cease at some point, one way or the other. Either I will continue with a full-time job and I will do much less YouTube, or I will do this full-time and I will not have a job. One way or the other, we're going to minimize the work total for the week to double digits and not triple digits. And so the aim, the vision, the big picture, the goal, the dream is to do this full time. And obviously I need to be paid, and I need to pay myself and to be able to drive more traffic to the site, upgrade equipment and make it look more presentable and a little fancier. And to be able to have a regular call-in show. I would like to be able to have a call-in show, not hold a phone up to a mic. And for those of you in which have an idea of the situation in which I am currently in, I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And once I get a determination on what the future of the channel is going to be and where I need to go and what direction I need to take this from here, then I can certainly would like to make the commitment to better equipment with the camera, the mics, and the production equipment, and so forth. But I can't do that right now. We got to call in, and remember the line is 860-325-3687. This is, of course, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
This is Darren McCardle.
Hey, Darren, how are you?
I'm doing good. I was just wondering, who do you think is going to be the #1 draft pick in the NFL this year off of the college?
Oh, boy.
Last year was Mayfield.
Yes, it was. So keep in mind, when I make this prediction, keep in mind that hardly anybody at this time, the end of January, the beginning of February last year, would have told you that Baker Mayfield was going to be the first player selected in the NFL draft. The conventional wisdom was that it was going to be Sam Darnold or Saquon Barkley. And there were a few people out there that thought that maybe Bradley Chubb would jump up there and be the #1 selected player. So this is not my thing. I'm a huge NFL fan. I know a lot of NFL history. I watch the games. Again, I love the NFL. I love college football, of course, and this is what I do. But there's as you know, there's a disconnect between the two because the best players in college don't always translate. And sometimes some lesser players in college are able to elevate their game, get some coaching and development, and become really good players in the NFL. And it's all about need and it's about projection more so than it's about college production. All right. I don't know what the draft gurus are saying right now. I don't know what they're looking at. I know that Nick Bosa out of Ohio State has been mentioned as a top pick. Let's try. I can't even tell you who's got the number one pick in the NFL draft right now. I'm trying to think who had the worst records in the NFL. Does Arizona, I believe, has the first pick in the draft. Do they have the first pick in the draft?
I believe so.
Arizona. Okay. Yes.
Record this year.
Yeah. So there was some.
Really sure.
Yeah, there was some talk that Arizona was going to trade Josh Rosen. So, of course, they just drafted a first-round quarterback last year. But in hiring, oh, shoot, I can't remember the guys. Oh, they hired Cliff Kingsbury, obviously, from Texas Tech, that they were looking to go to the quarterback route again and trade Rosen. And I'm trying to think who was on their mind to bring in. Who would that have been?
I know Baker Mayfield pretty much had everybody's ear out when it came to looking for him. And that's the reason Cleveland grabbed him, because he was pretty much the best pick out there to a lot of people. And I was just wondering, who's the best this year that you think is that's leaving college that may be in the first pick in the NFL?
Okay, Darren, give me just a second here because I'm going to pull up a mock draft, because what that's going to do is that's going to present me with a ton of names, and then I'm going to be able to tell you who I like and who I don't like.
Also,
yep.
How far you think UCF would go in the draft? You think that UCF players is good enough to be first round, or you think it'd be third round?
Well, it depends who the player is. We see group of 5 players drafted in the first round all the time. Eric Fisher out of the MAC was the number 1 overall player taken in the draft about 5 years ago.
Right.
So obviously, most of the best players are in the Power 5, but the group of 5 certainly produces plenty of NFL players. So let's look at this projection here. So I just pulled up a random site. There's a zillion of them out there. This one in particular has Arizona taking Q Williams out of Alabama, defensive tackle, number 1. San Francisco with Nick Bosa, Ohio State, number 2. The Jets at number 3 taking Josh Allen out of Kentucky. Pardon me?
I would think Bosa would go number 1.
Well, this Quinnen Williams is a force. He is a force. And Bosa, I'm sure he's going to bounce back from injury, but at the same time, he did have a pretty severe injury his senior season or his junior season in college, or was that his sophomore? Anyway, his last season there at Ohio State, his 3rd season. Oakland at number 4, taking Devin White, a linebacker from LSU. Tampa Bay, Ed Oliver, defensive lineman from Houston. Giants go with Dwayne Haskins, Ohio State quarterback. Kyler Murray, the quarterback out of Oklahoma, with Jacksonville at number 7. Number 8, Detroit. Cleveland Farrell to the Detroit Lions. Buffalo at number 9 takes Jonah Williams, offensive tackle, Alabama. And the 10th pick goes to Drew Lock and Denver.
But who would you think would be number 1?
Who would I take number 1? If I ran the Arizona Cardinals?
If you had a choice of anybody out of the draft, who would you choose to be your number 1? That's what I'm asking.
Okay. I would take...
If you were an NFL coach, who would you choose number 1?
Well, I would give it a whole lot more thought than I am right this second. That's for sure. You know, you understand that these guys are crunching numbers and watching tape for months, and measuring these guys and giving them all sorts of tests. So my final answer might be different than the one that I would give right now, but I would tend to select a player based on his ability to be great, his ceiling versus my need. I was never a big need guy in terms of the roster. You can fill out the needs later in the draft. I was in it for drafting the superstar, and the first two guys on this board, Quinnen Williams and Nick Bosa, should be superstars in the NFL, and so should Josh Allen out of Kentucky. I really like Josh Allen out of Kentucky. If I'm going to take one guy that I am about as sure as can be is going to be an impact player in the NFL, that's going to be my guy.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to know.
All right.
And what's UCF looking like? You think their players are going to get high in the draft, or you think middle of the draft?
Well, again, I'm trying to think who's coming out for UCF in particular.
Opinion, draft is given, but your opinion on what you saw this year with UCF.
Well, what I saw with UCF was I watched the LSU game. I saw some of the Cincinnati game. I saw some of the UConn game. I saw some of the Pitt game. And so I saw them play a handful of times. I don't watch them as much as I do Power 5 teams. I would have to go through their roster and see who's coming out for the NFL draft. If we go to our guy, Jeff Sharon. So if you're concerned with UCF, we have a guest contributor, Jeff Sharon from SB Nation, who comes on a regular basis to talk UCF football. And let's see. So we've got a few NFL draft prospects that they have. They got two linebackers, Pat Jasinski and Titus Davis, who are pretty high-level draft eligible players, and defensive lineman Tyler Hudanik, and you got Trey Neal at safety. I've seen all these guys play. Kyle Gibson at defensive back, and really they don't lose much along the offense, except maybe Wyatt Miller. So they lose basically nothing in terms of NFL draft stock offensively, but lose some of these key pieces at the linebacker spot defensively. But none of these guys do I see going high in the draft. They're not going to have any high draft picks out of UCF this year.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm going to hang up now, but thank you so much.
All right, Darren, I appreciate the call. You have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right. Yes, we will dive into the NFL draft here in the next couple months with a number of our NFL draft contributors that we haven't seen in a year or so. Rick Saratella from the NFL Draft Bible in particular helps us out quite a bit come NFL draft time. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking up the game we love. And do you guys have any thoughts on which school has produced the best players to make an impact in the Super Bowl? So let's think about this. Who's played well? Who are legendary players in the Super Bowl? There's a sportscaster out there that I find this kind of amusing because he makes a big deal out of being able to recite every Super Bowl score. Well, a number of people can do that. I can do that. I can tell you every Super Bowl score. I can tell you every MVP of every Super Bowl. I can tell you with a little coaxing and a little thought. I used to be able to definitely tell you player stats from all the Super Bowls, and I could tell you not every single guy that caught one pass for 7 yards, but all the quarterback, running back stats, and also where the games were played. That's kind of become a little hazy in my mind in terms of where the games were played. But yeah, all the Super Bowl scores is not an issue. So I was going to go through some MVPs of Super Bowls and where they played in college. So right out of the gate, Alabama just took hold of Super Bowl glory. Super Bowl lore went to Alabama first and foremost. Think of this. The first 3 Super Bowl MVPs go to Alabama. Bart Starr, Super Bowl I, Super Bowl II, Joe Namath, Super Bowl III, even though Joe Namath did not really earn MVP for the 3rd Super Bowl. He was playing quarterback. He played a decent game. He did not throw a touchdown pass. His team scored 16 points. They won 16-7. How that game did not go to either Matt Snell as MVP for 121 yards rushing or somebody on the defense that maybe was in the backfield constantly, and give it to Joe Namath for scoring 16 points and no touchdowns. But anyway, the record shows that Joe Namath won the MVP, and he played at Alabama. So Alabama, right out of the gate with 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Super Bowl IV went to Len Dawson, Purdue quarterback. And there would be other Purdue quarterbacks, of course, to win Super Bowl MVPs. And then you had, let's see, Super Bowl 4, yes, Len Dawson out of Purdue. Super Bowl 5 with Chuck Howley. Now, where did Chuck Howley go to college? I believe it was somewhere in the Big 12. Chuck Howley. I would have to look him up. Super Bowl 6, and we'll get to Chuck Howley in just a second, just to verify what conference he comes from and what team. Super Bowl 6, of course, Roger Staubach, Navy, Heisman Trophy winner, the first Heisman Trophy winner to win a Super Bowl as the MVP. Then you had Super Bowl 7. Jake Scott won the MVP, Miami Dolphins. So Jake Scott, I don't remember where he went. I think he went to a Big 10 or a Big 12 school as well. We'll have to look at Jake Scott. Super Bowl 8 was Larry Zonka, Syracuse, which, of course, they've gone from independent to Big East to ACC. So I guess the ACC gets credited with the Super Bowl MVP, Larry Zonka. Same thing for the Big 10 and Penn State's Franco Harris in Super Bowl 9. Give that one to the Big 10 and Penn State, although Penn State was certainly not in the Big 10 yet at that point. Lynn Swann won the MVP in Super Bowl 10. He went to USC. Fred Biletnikoff won the MVP in Super Bowl 11 from Florida State. Fred Biletnikoff, Florida State, and the Biletnikoff Award, of course. Super Bowl 12 had 2 MVPs. Harvey Martin went to a small school. Harvey Martin went to a small school, and I don't remember where he went. I'm going to have to look up Harvey Martin, Jake Scott, and Chuck Howley. Randy White was co-MVP in the Super Bowl in 1978 out of Maryland. So another post-Big Ten accreditation. Then you had Terry Bradshaw with back-to-back Super Bowl MVPs from Louisiana Tech. Then we had Super Bowl 15 and a good run for Stanford quarterbacks, starting with Jim Plunkett in 1980, Super Bowl MVP. The next year was Notre Dame and Joe Montana. Probably shouldn't have won that Super Bowl MVP either. So just like renaming national championships, and I should do that with Heisman Trophy winners, we could do the same thing with Super Bowl MVPs. Then the next year was John Riggins. Remember Riggo? 166 yards rushing for the Redskins against the Dolphins to win in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. And John Riggins went to... John Riggins, anybody? Same school that produced Gale Sayers and Talik Agib. Talib, I said his name wrong. Gale Sayers, Todd Reesing, Kansas. Talik, why cannot I remember the cornerback's name? Alib. It's just completely gone. Talik How do you pronounce his last name? I can't even picture the word, the spelling of his last name. All right, the next Super Bowl was Marcus Allen with the beautiful touchdown runs and 191 yards rushing from USC. So there's another USC, Lynn Swann, Marcus Allen. Then we had Montana win another MVP from Notre Dame against the Dolphins. And then we had Richard Dent. I don't remember where Richard Dent went to college, but he won the MVP in 85. Then in 86, meaning January 87, Phil Simms, Morehead State. Then the next Super Bowl was Doug Williams as the MVP from Grambling. Then you had, that was in 87. In 88, Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley State, was the MVP. Then Joe Montana won another MVP, Notre Dame. So there was 3 MVPs for Notre Dame. And then in 1990 was O.J. Anderson. O.J. Anderson, anyone? Where'd he go to college? O.J. Anderson. 10,000-yard back in the NFL. Cardinals, Giants. Anybody? Played at the U. O.J. Anderson. All right. That was the Scott Norwood miss against the Giants. All right. The next season was Mark Rippon, Washington State, won the MVP. And then you had the back-to-back Dallas wins over Buffalo, Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman actually the first one, then Emmitt. And they went to Oklahoma. Well, Aikman then left Oklahoma and went to UCLA. So UCLA is basically his school where he threw the ball and played and started. Aikman at UCLA and Emmitt Smith at Florida. Then we had the Niners win over the Chargers and Steve Young, BYU. Then we had the Larry Brown 2-interception game in which he was handed the Super Bowl MVP by Neil O'Donnell, who played at Maryland. Neil O'Donnell to Larry Brown twice in the fourth quarter for the Cowboys. And so Larry Brown, I can't remember where he went to. I'm not coming up with a school for Larry Brown. So we've got to look him up as well. Then we've got the next Super Bowl was the Packers win over the New England Patriots. And Desmond Howard won the MVP with a couple long touchdowns, both in the kick game and in the pass game. Desmond Howard from Michigan. All right. Then we had Terrell Davis, Georgia, win the MVP for Denver. And then another Broncos win over the Falcons and John Elway from Stanford, joining Jim Plunkett from Stanford with Super Bowl MVPs. That brings us to 1999 and the famous 1 yard at the goal line play, game-saving tackle by Mike Jones on the Tennessee wide receiver. Wasn't Derek Mason. It was Dyson, Kevin Dyson. And the MVP of that game was Kurt Warner, Northern Iowa. Then we go to Ray Lewis, Miami, MVP in Super Bowl 2000, whatever number that was. Baltimore crushed the Giants. Next Super Bowl was the Patriots win over the Rams, and the Super Bowl MVP went to Tom. Did Tom Brady win the first? He won that Super Bowl MVP, didn't he? He only threw for 145 yards. This is the first one I'm going to have to verify. Yeah, Tom Brady won. He threw for 145 yards and won the Super Bowl MVP. All right, whatever. Michigan. Then we had the 0-2 game in which Dexter Jackson, the Tampa Bay cornerback, won the MVP with 2 picks and 1 coming back for a touchdown. And so he won the Super Bowl MVP. Then we had, of course, the Patriots then won back-to-back games with Tom Brady winning the MVP against Carolina. And then Deion Branch from, anybody on Deion Branch? Louisville won the MVP against the Eagles. So that takes us to 2005 and the Pittsburgh win over Seattle with Hines Ward from Georgia winning the MVP. Then in 2006, of course, was Peyton Manning, Tennessee, with a win over Chicago. 2007 was the upset Giants over the undefeated Patriots. And, of course, Eli Manning won the MVP from Ole Miss. 2008 was the Steelers win over the Cardinals, and Santonio Holmes from Ohio State won the MVP with the game-winning catch and about 125 or 140 yards receiving in that game. The next season was the Manning-Breeze matchup with the Colts blowing a halftime lead. New Orleans won 31-17. Drew Brees from Purdue won the MVP to join Len Dawson as Purdue Super Bowl winning MVPs. Then we go to 2010 and the second Giants win over the New England Patriots, and Eli Manning won another Super Bowl MVP. So there you go. Then, so at that point, we've got Manning winning another MVP. And then in the next game, trying to think, 2011. So we move up to the Niners-Ravens game. And who won the MVP for Baltimore in that game? Joe Flacco from Delaware won that. And then now we are in, where are we? 2012. Somewhere in there, I'm missing a game. Where did I skip? I missed the Packers-Steelers game. 2009. Yes, I missed the Packers-Steelers game. Aaron Rodgers with the MVP as Green Bay beat Pittsburgh. That's Aaron Rodgers' only Super Bowl appearance and win. He won the MVP from Cal. All right, that catches us up to the 2013 Super Bowl. Seattle blew out Denver. And this is the first one I'm going to have to maybe reference the list on Super Bowl MVP. It was the linebacker that won the MVP. I can't think of his name. The linebacker for Seattle. Oh, my goodness, number 54. Didn't Bobby Wagner win the MVP? Let me check this. Let me look this up. No, Malcolm Smith won the MVP. That's right, Malcolm Smith. I don't know where he went to college. And then, of course, then we had the New England win over Seattle that Pete Carroll blew the end of the game strategy, or Russell Wilson would have won an MVP. But instead, it was Tom Brady winning the MVP through 4 touchdowns, and Michigan wins another MVP, courtesy Tom Brady. Then we go to the 2015 game in which Peyton Manning, in his last game, beat Carolina. Von Miller from Texas A&M was the MVP in that game. Had a number of sacks and a safety in that game. All right. Then we had Tom Brady, of course, leading the big comeback against the Atlanta Falcons, and he wins another MVP. And then last year, of course, we had Nick Foles with a huge game against Tom Brady as Philadelphia beat and upset New England 41-33, and Nick Foles from Arizona. There you have it. All right. Who else has played great in the Super Bowl that didn't necessarily win an MVP? Teddy Bruschi comes to mind for New England, and Mike Vrabel on those defenses. And you had Vrabel play at Ohio State, Teddy Bruschi at Arizona. John Stallworth with a huge game in a couple games for the Pittsburgh Steelers against Dallas and Los Angeles in the 79 and 80 Super Bowls. He from Alabama A&M. You had Max McGee, who had the huge Super Bowl I in relief of Boyd Dowler and Carroll Dale when they got hurt and couldn't play, and Max McGee won the MVP, or didn't win the MVP, started, but Max McGee and wherever he went to college. I mentioned Matt Snell, Super Bowl III. I don't know where he went to college. Otis Taylor had a nice game for Kansas City, Super Bowl IV. Dwayne Thomas had a 100-yard game rushing, just about that. Larry Zonka had the big game, as we mentioned, in Super Bowl 1974 in Houston, but also the season before. Of course, the Miami defense was remarkable in its games against Washington and Minnesota, only giving up 1 touchdown in 2 games. Manny Fernandez and Nick Bonicani, Jake Scott, and their massive offensive line, Larry Little and Bob Kutenberg. And, of course, Dallas, the Doomsday Defense, the first edition with Bob Lilly and Mel Renfro and Chuck Howley and that great defense. Then, of course, you had Jethro Pugh and those guys. And then you had the Doomsday 2 defense with, we mentioned the MVPs, Randy White and Harvey Martin, Too Tall Jones, who played at, I believe, East Tennessee State. Cliff Harris, Charlie Waters, the Doomsday or the Steel Curtain defense, of course. And the great Joe Green from North Texas. And L.C. Greenwood, he played at a black college that I cannot come up with right now. We mentioned Swan and Stallworth, Franco Harris from Penn State, and the great Mel Blount, who played at another black college. The great defense from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won the Super Bowl, and we mentioned Dexter Jackson with the MVP. But, of course, they had Warren Sapp from Miami, in particular Derek Brooks, who played at Florida State, and the great safety, number 47, John Lynch from Stanford. The great Dallas Cowboys defenses that backed up the triplets on offense, Aikman, Irvin, and Smith, with the likes of Russell Maryland from Miami. And Darren Woodson, who played at Arizona State, who's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And, of course, Deion Sanders from Florida State, who won Super Bowls for both the Cowboys and the Niners. I mentioned Montana and Rice, but we also had John Taylor. Don't remember where he went to school. Roger Craig and Tom Rathman both went to Nebraska. Ricky Waters from Notre Dame on those great San Francisco teams later. Brent Jones at tight end. John Franks, Ohio State at tight end for those great San Francisco teams. The Giants team that won the Super Bowl with Phil Simms, as we mentioned, from Morehead State at quarterback, had O.J. Anderson, of course, as we mentioned, but also Joe Morris, who played at Syracuse. Lawrence Taylor, North Carolina. William Roberts, Ohio State. Pepper Johnson, Ohio State players played on that Giants team that won the Super Bowl twice. There you go. I could keep going and going and going. All right, let's look at the live chat. Who knows what you guys have been talking about ever since I started. Keep in mind, we got the Super Chat available here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, if you would like to contribute. And what I should probably do is start what many of you have suggested is a Patreon account. And we'll have bonus content and goodies over there. Leon Lett, good call from Greg. Christopher chimes in with USC, Swan, Allen, Malcolm Smith, Georgia, Jake Scott, Terrell Davis, and Ward. So Jake Scott from Georgia. Thank you. Darren McCardle, there was a safety in the first play of the game. Yes, safety against Peyton Manning. Christopher, USC and Georgia, 3 different ones each. Only schools, I think, with 3 different Super Bowl MVPs. Alabama, Starr and Namath, can't come up with anyone else. Michigan, Brady and Desmond Howard. Stanford with 2, Plunkett and Elway. Purdue with 2, Dawson and Breeze. Yeah, that could be it. those two schools with 3 different MVPs. Thoughts on Rookie of the Year? Without looking at the stats, Tom, I would have to side with Baker Mayfield. He just had so much more responsibility than Saquon Barkley and really turned a team around. Not individually, not by himself. He was given a lot of credit for it and should be. It was a team effort. They brought on Jarvis Landry, who provided not just gameplay, game-changing playmaking ability at wide receiver, but also provided leadership and a winning attitude and some guts and grit and some toughness to that team. But Baker Mayfield, I would give the MVP to, or the Rookie of the Year to, without looking at the stats. I haven't looked at the stats. I see that Christopher was playing along with us. Larry Brown, Texas Christian, TCU. Okay. Aqib Talib. I don't know why the spelling and the letters were just like going together, and I was like, Taqib Talib. How do you pronounce this? I can't remember. I was just zoning out on that. Dennis Wilson does not want to remember John Riggins. You know what, Dennis? This is maybe the first thing that we can agree on, because you're always just tearing me up on my analysis, although you're a faithful viewer. So, Dennis, this is me giving you a little man hug there. Thanks for watching and the comments, but I think we can agree on that one, because I, at the time, as a little tyke, was a huge, enormous Dallas Cowboys fan. And so I despised John Riggins. Despised him. Hated him. When I say hate, that's in a sports context. Joe Theismann, Dexter Manley, Charlie Brown, Alvin Garrett, on down the line. Mark Murphy. Oh, Neil Okowitz. Dave Butts. All those guys, but especially Theismann and Riggins. Christopher, you guys were playing along. I like to see that. Howley went to West Virginia. Thank you, Tom. Dennis. I was not going to forget O.J. Anderson from Miami. Don't worry. CJ, Miami Canes 87. Mark Rogers, you might as well be a Hurricane family. You don't get it, but thanks for the offer. Appreciate it. Quarterbacks always get the glory, right or wrong. Name it. Seems like Michigan has made the most impact in the Super Bowl lately, Mark. Wait a minute. Has Michigan or is Tom Brady? Now let's make something straight. Let's get something straight here. The two teams that are going to be playing tomorrow night should not be in the Super Bowl. There are two other teams that should be in the Super Bowl right now. That would be the Chiefs and the Saints. They should be playing in the Super Bowl. We all know why the Saints should be in the game, because they got ripped off. And sure, the defense should have been able to march out there and stop the Rams from scoring and win the game. I'm a big believer in that. The game, that call did not take the game out of their hands. It just prevented them from sealing the game, but it did not give them a loss. They gave themselves a loss by playing bad defense. And then the Rams playing really good defense and knocking the ball loose from Drew Brees, who threw it up in the air because he was hit from the blind side and his arm was grabbed, and then threw the interception that led to the field goal to win the game in overtime. But the Saints should be in the Super Bowl. And the Kansas City Chiefs should be in the Super Bowl. Now, that phantom personal foul on Tom Brady, that roughing the passer, that was one of the more pathetic calls I've ever seen. Discount that. The Patriots completed the drive. That was not a third down or fourth down stop. So it certainly aided the drive. We don't know what would have happened. Instead of having an automatic first down and another 15 yards, the Patriots would have been backed up and they would have had, 3rd and 10 or whatever it was. But that doesn't mean that they would not have converted. So we don't know what would have happened. But we do know if D Ford is not called for an offsides penalty, and I don't blame the official. He made the call. He saw it. He made the call. But man, if I'm that official, I've got my hand right on the flag. I got my hand on the flag as soon as I see that. And if D Ford has an impact, any reasonable or slight impact on that play whatsoever, I throw the flag. If not, and he didn't, because D Ford was way to Tom Brady's left. He was rushing from Brady's left edge, and Brady took a quick drop and he threw it to the right. D Ford did not affect that play whatsoever. Did not come around the edge, didn't get to Brady, didn't come close to him, didn't come within a zip code of Tom Brady. Brady throws the pick. The game's over. Saints, Chiefs. That's the game we should be watching tomorrow night. I am not going to be invested in this Super Bowl game at all. Mark, who is your most hated athlete, college or pro of all time? Joseph Drame. And if I mispronounced your last name, I apologize. How many penalties did Notre Dame get away with, Greg? I don't know. So that's a fair point, Greg. If you watch the entire game, which I did, I watched every play. I was a bit distracted in the fourth quarter near the end of the game, but I watched every play, and I don't recall there being bad calls before that. So certainly that's an argument that can be made. And it's much like the national championship game from 2002 that I argue when people say that Ohio State was gifted the national championship. They weren't. And I've gone deep into that many, many times. So I'm not going to here except to say that play should also be put into context against other plays in the game where Ohio State was ripped off by the officials and other bad calls in the Miami game. So maybe that's the point that either I believe Tom's making here, or was it Greg? Greg is making here about the Saints getting some calls go their way earlier in the game. Tom, if there's any year I'd like to see a third place game in the NFL, it's this year. Darren, LA Revenge, Joseph, last name pronunciation was perfect. Joseph Drame. Joseph, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis on college football you're going to find right here. This is the first time I've seen your name in the live chat. Therefore, this is you're welcome. I hope you've been watching a long time. If not, actually, I hope, regardless of the situation, that you will comment on a regular basis. And I'll get to your question in just a sec. Christopher, he got a 2-finger love tap as he was letting the ball go. Ref behind a bad call. Who knows what would have happened in the Superdome with all that noise. Christopher, I don't know what play you're referring to. Of course, the Brady personal foul roughing the passer call was this. Was it Houston who reached up? Now, how this is not legal in football, hardly anything's legal anymore in playing defense, and especially the NFL. But I'm a defensive lineman. I'm trying to rush the passer. I'm engaged with the offensive lineman. I see the quarterback on the other side of the offensive lineman right in front of me. And so I'm not getting anywhere, and I see he's about to throw the ball. So I just think I can reach over and I can just kind of distract him, maybe get a hand on the ball, on his shoulder, just pull his shoulder, do something to affect this pass. And I reach over and I barely get his shoulder like that. Personal foul. Can't do that. What? That was one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. My son said to me today, he said, Dad, I wouldn't be surprised if games are fixed in the NFL. Just like all the BS calls on Clay Matthews this year. Greg G, we're talking about Tom Brady here. Okay, let's go back to MCD Sports 4 has the Patriots winning 37-35. So I have a long and illustrious history of picking Super Bowls correct. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but let's see. I may be off by a game or two here, but I do have the numbers recorded, and I have videos cut on my Super Bowl prediction. Actually, every year that I've had this YouTube channel, I have done a 10 or 12-minute Super Bowl prediction video. I didn't do that this year, but I'm going to make my Super Bowl prediction here shortly. And I have not thought about it, but I at one time took a great pride in my Super Bowl prediction record, both straight up and against the spread. So the first one I predicted was the Steelers-Rams game in 1980. So that would be 80 through 18 would be 39 Super Bowls, right? 39 Super Bowls. I'm something like straight up, maybe I'm 31-8 or 29-11, something like that. Whatever that is. Against the spread, I'm definitely around 2-1, and I'll get those numbers to you at some point. I've got them. But Joseph is asking for my most hated athletes of all time. So again, I want to put the word hate into context. We're just talking about hating athletes, meaning I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And certainly, especially when I was younger, it didn't matter. They could have been the greatest character person in the world. They could have been a just fine individual. And I didn't care if they played for the wrong team. Because a lot of that wasn't as reported and as well known as it is now. Plus, I didn't care. I could have convicts playing for my team, and I loved them. And then I could have complete saints playing for other teams, and I disliked and hated them. Hated them again. So right at the top of the list, we've got Joe Theismann and John Riggins. I did not like Larry Bird most of his career. Late in his career, this happened with Larry Bird and a few other people. Michael Jordan I didn't like during most of his career, but late in their careers, then I gained appreciation for them. And I've got nothing against Michael Jordan, but I was a Cavs fan. So I didn't like Michael Jordan. I did not like Larry Bird, and I'm not an NBA guy, so I hate to go too much into the NBA. I'm a football guy, baseball guy. John Riggins, Joe Theismann, all those Redskins players from that era of the early 80s to mid 80s. And I named a bunch of them: Neil Oklowitz and Monty Coleman and Mark Murphy and Dave Butts and Darryl Green, although it's tough to hate Darryl Green, and the Fun Bunch and Art Monk, all those guys. I hated those San Francisco teams from the Bill Walsh days. I hated those teams. Joe Montana, Dwight Clark, rest in peace. Again, this is put into sports context, hatred. Yeah, I hated those San Francisco teams. Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright, Dwight Hicks. Yeah. It the Ricky Patton at running back. Earl Cooper, Dave Bing. No, what was his name? Ring. Dave Bing was the basketball player. Hacksaw Reynolds, Guy McIntyre. Oh, let's see. Trying to think baseball players. So I was a Yankees fan for a very brief time when I started watching sports in the late 70s. Very brief time. The Reggie Jackson, Mickey Rivers, Thurman Munson, Greg Nettles, Roy White, Lou Piniella, Catfish Hunter, Ron Guidry, Sparky Lyle, Goose Gossage, Willie Randolph, New York Yankees. But that was for a very brief time, and I've been a Cleveland Indians fan basically my whole life. So I can't think of any baseball players that there must have been some that I couldn't stand at the time. So I didn't like those Red Sox teams with Jim Rice and George Scott and Freddie Lynn and Carlton Fisk and Bob Stanley and Mike Torres and those guys. I didn't like those Red Sox teams. Oh my goodness, I hate the Yankees. So yeah, ever since like the mid '90s, all those Yankees teams I've hated that have won championships. Now I don't hate Derek Jeter. We can put A-Rod in that classification. We'll put him in that category. A-Rod. And individually, I can't really name those athletes that I hated, but the Yankees, yes, I despised the Yankees, the teams that won all the championships in the late 90s. 4 out of 5 years, and then the teams later, and the team now. Yeah. Yeah, I hated the Celtics because I like the Cavs. And before that, I was a Dr. J fan, and they would always meet the Celtics in the early 80s in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I hated them, hated the Celtics. Yeah. But I can look back at those games and appreciate the Celtics now, appreciate Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale and Cornbread Maxwell and Danny Ainge and Dennis Johnson and, of course, Larry Bird and Scott Wedman. All right. That's about my hatred lineup. And then Michigan football. So go down the list of Michigan. I used to just shake my fist at Bo Schembechler on the TV screen all the time. Christopher, at least he was close enough to defend the play. 15 yards, first down is still drastic. If the guy gets wide open, then yeah, you guys are up on something here. Bill Romanowski. Yeah, a lot of people hated him. We need college football. No damn baseball, according to Grun. As a Braves fan, I can't stand the Yankees. The Shoemeister. Okay. Grun, believe me, who sticks to college football more than I do? Come on. Go to any other college football channel. Who gives you more college football? College football all the time. Who is posting 6 videos a day? Me. College football all the time. So, man, I talked about baseball for 28 seconds. You can make it. Joseph Drame, it's a Cleveland Indians fan. My answers would have to be Josh Beckett, Aroldis Chapman, good call. Cisse Sabathia, Jose Batista, and probably Brian Shaw. Okay. Right. Darren McCardle hates the Braves. Grun, National Signing Day around the corner. Yeah. Have you been watching the videos, Grun? I got you covered on National Signing Day. I am churning out recruiting videos like nobody's business. And soon, are you guys hyped up for my Power 5 conference rankings? Greg, the nastiest player in the NFL all time. Jack Tatum comes to mind, who played at anyone? Jack Tatum, Ronnie Lott, Mel Blount, Steve Atwater. Those guys come to mind. Ted Hendricks, John Matusak, Otis Sistrunk. Those guys come to mind. George Atkinson. Shoemeister, as far as players I couldn't stand, mostly anyone from Auburn. I respect the guys that were really good, but didn't mean I liked them. Greg, being a Cavs fan back in the day had to suck. Yeah, it did. The rule in college is better, in my opinion, Darren, whatever you guys are playing. Groon, please stop the Miami videos. Groon, as soon as you are able, and for some reason I've lost my picture, but Groon, as soon as you are able to bring me fan bases that are going to be more loyal and more engaged than Miami fan bases, then I will produce videos on those teams. I have given you guys in the last week, you can see the videos there. Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Miami, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Notre Dame, UCLA, Washington. I should be able to deliver here in the next few days, USC, Oregon, TCU. Got a lot of good stuff coming. And ACC schedules. Then I'm going to get through the Power 5 conference rankings, all right? I'm going to rank the Power 5. So I'm going to give you a metric. You'll love it. Believe me, if you have yet to catch me in the offseason, you're going to love my Power 5 conference rankings. I'm going to give you the metrics of how well they played against each other. And then I'm going to put it into context, and I will tell you the best conference, the second, third, fourth, and fifth. Then I'm going to rank the coaches. I got to rank the coaches. Then we're going to rank the schedules, and I'm going to project a record for every team in Power 5. We're going to give you the schedule of every team. Maybe I'll give you the schedule of every team. Well, let's see. Do we do the entire FBS, 130 teams, give you every schedule? But I can't rank. I cannot, with credibility. If I was a hack, like a lot of people on YouTube, sure, I could throw rankings all over the place just to get clicks. But I mean, credible rankings, I would not feel as though I would be able to deliver that for the entire FBS. But I can run through the group of 5 schedules and project records and give you key matchups. And then once we get into the Power 5, I would rank them as I always do, 1 through 68, and project the records. Plus, we'll get you set for spring football. Arizona State goes to spring practice this week. And I gave you Arizona State. I missed them. Arizona State and Oklahoma State recruiting, Groon. Come on, Groon. If I not giving you recruiting coverage, come on now. Okay. MCD Sports 4 feels like calling in. You can call 860-325-3687. 860-325-3687. Who's the most underrated team that will surprise this year? I would just be throwing teams out there. I've got to look at personnel. Again, you guys are used to watching YouTubers who just throw stuff out there. I'm going to give you thoughtful analysis. I will stand by my analysis and my predictions, but I'm just not going to throw teams out there. Who could possibly come back this year? Florida State, Tennessee, TCU, who went 7-6. So I'm talking about going from, let's say, 6-6 regular season to 9-3. Tennessee going from 5-7 to 7-5, 8-4. Who else did I mention? Florida State going from 5-7 to 8-4. Those could be some turnarounds for you. Nebraska going from what? 4-8, 8-4, 7-5. Look out for those. On the flip side, on the other side, dropping. Oh, USC, of course, from 5-7. if they don't improve drastically from that, Clay Helton, he needs to win the division, go to the Pac-12 championship game minimum. But teams that may drop, may fall. I got to think that Washington State's a prime candidate to go from 10-2 to 7-5, 8-4. Stanford might be really good this year. Who else may take a tumble? Northwestern only went 8-4. They could take the tumble, obviously, as division champ, but I would expect that their record's going to be similar to what it was this past year. Syracuse, coming off 10-3, 9-3 in the regular season. We'll see if they've got it in them back-to-back years. I got to think that Auburn's going to do better than 7-5. Hound Dog. Come on, call in 860-325-3687. Mark would hit me with facts. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. Everybody else makes stuff up. I'm not here to make up stuff. West Virginia may tumble. Good call, Justin. Justin Finn. I have never seen your handle here at the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers TV. If you enjoy the content here, consider contributing to the live chat, the super chat, where you can throw me $1, $2, $5, whatever you want to give. I see other folks doing super chats on YouTube, but that's one thing I do see. Somebody was asking me about YouTube content and if I watch videos. No, but in what little I see, I do see other YouTubers who do live chats, super chats, and they get all sorts of money thrown at them. So my objective here is not to necessarily make money. Let me put this correctly, to make money if I'm going to be keeping my current job, but then I would cease to do this. Maybe I might come on here once a week just to shoot the breeze for an hour. But the goal and the aspiration is to build this into something big. That's why we've added about 1,500 subscribers, and that's thanks to you. We've added about 1,500 subscribers the past couple of months to both this channel, about 1,100 to 1,200 per month, and over at the Miami channel in particular, Mark Rogers TV, College Football Miami. So we want to do this full time and do it right. Make it look good, make it look great, and do it right and deliver content like nobody. Ratings, rankings, discussion, debate, analysis, and actually get a little creative and have some fun as well. But I just don't have time for that right now. Work 50 hours, work doing this 40 or 50 hours. So one of those is going to give. So that's why I push the super chat. The super chat is to buy better equipment, and the super chat is to get us to a point where we can go full time all the time. And again, when I say that, I am just making the pitch that I don't really want to make. I'm not a salesman. I don't come on here to solicit. You guys know that. I just come on here to talk college football, but that's part of the deal. I've got to be host, analyst, and then I also have to be accountant and marketer and businessman and all those other things and salesperson. So I've got to do that stuff too, because I've got nobody to do it for me. And I could use a sponsor. So if you know of any sponsorship deals out there, I was watching a YouTube forum a couple of weeks ago in which a number of prominent YouTubers said that once you get a subscriber base of 5,000 viewers, then you should be able to sponsor. You should be eligible and big enough with 5,000 subscribers to have a sponsorship. Well, I've got 8,100 here, and I've got about 1,300 on my Miami channel. So I've got about close to 10,000 subscribers total with the Ohio State channel and the USC channel, but over 8,000 here. And so I should be able to get a sponsorship. But besides posting that on Facebook and on Twitter, I don't know how to get a sponsorship. I'm not a guy that goes out and gets sponsorships. That's not my deal. I'm not a salesman. Why would I try my local mom and pops, Greg? I don't understand that point. I'm international. I'm just as relevant in Australia as I am down the street. This is not a local business. So why would I get sponsorship? Why would somebody locally sponsor on a YouTube channel? They can be seen anywhere equally. There is no attachment to the local market. It's not like I've got a bike shop in town or a donut shop or an ice cream stand. I'm an internet. So to run around town asking for sponsorships when there's probably nobody in this town that watches me, well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You should mute the mic until someone donates. Slim Shady Canes, he said that because that's what Uncle Lou does. I don't really know that, Slim Shady. I just, if you're referring to soliciting for super chat, yeah, I've caught that from a few other people. I'm not going to name names. I've caught that from a few other people. Uncle Lou would not be one of them, though. I don't see anyone else too often. Dennis, Mark Rogers, you got to think that Miami's going to bounce back and win the ACC championship. Okay. Dennis, you will forever be optimistic, and that's a good trait to have. All right, folks. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I've got a ton of work to do for you, delivering content to you. And actually, I do these live streams because I enjoy them, but I also do it for the interaction, and so you guys can talk to each other. And I love doing the live streams, but they don't really benefit me much, especially when I do the super chat and nothing happens. And when I could be producing a bunch of different videos and get them out there. And what those do is, this is what I'm told, that on YouTube doesn't really love live streams. So once you do a live stream, if you don't have many people on the line with you, and then that video posts, but YouTube doesn't get that into its traffic. It doesn't circulate that video into the suggested videos feed. Therefore, most live streams, unless you get a ton of people on the line right then and there, they don't do well. So for me to sit here for 2 hours doing a live stream, I could do much better traffic and make more money and build the channel much better by just producing videos. And that's why I've been concentrating more on producing videos, because the live streams don't really help me when we don't have a huge amount of people watching and the super chat doesn't pay off. So there's not a whole lot of incentive for me to do the live streams versus doing the individual videos that do much better. Keep in mind that every Wednesday night, this has now been going on about 5 consecutive weeks, but every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, our Miami channel, Mark Rogers TV College Football Miami, produces a live stream. We are live at 7 o'clock Eastern Time Wednesday nights with Cam Underwood from State of the U. And then what I do is I take those topics and I edit those and provide those for everyone who would like to see the particular subject matters, and only those subject matters here at Mark Rogers TV. In the future, I'm going to do the same on my Ohio State channel, in which I will produce live streams there, and you can join in on the fun, get your comments and your questions out there, and join us as we produce Ohio State live streams. And then I'm going to bring the content over here in a more segmented fashion. All right. Hey, look at that. I got some funds coming in. So I appreciate, and I can't see right this second who that is, but I will certainly acknowledge you and thank you, because I appreciate that, because you guys don't need to do that. I feel silly mentioning that stuff, but this is the real world, and this is the way this works. Is you work 50 hours a week at a job, but you're trying to build a YouTube channel. And so I'm pouring out 50 hours a week on the YouTube channel, and something's going to give at some point. And I would love the YouTube channel to take off, which, thanks to all of you, it has gained more numbers and viewership in the last couple of months than at any time. By far, you guys listen to this, is I've got to recognize Slim Shady Canes. I like your vids. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Slim Shady Canes. And also Hound Dog, Go Vols. Hound Dog, thank you so much for being a faithful viewer and subscriber. Keep in mind, guys, that I was averaging about 60 to 80,000 views per month, regardless of the season. Joseph, wow. Joseph, thank you so much. Joseph, I had mentioned a few minutes ago when I saw your handle in the chat that, and I apologize if you have commented in the past and I just missed it. I miss a lot of comments in the chat, and I try to catch up with the comments in the regular video section. But thank you so much for the contribution there. It will not go unnoticed. Certainly, thank you so much. Maybe I should start a wall, and we'll do that on the other side. I'll write right on the window. I could do that. But what was I talking about? Oh, so I usually averaged about 60 to 80,000 views per month, and about 200 to 250 subscribers added per month. So this was through about October, and then all of a sudden, and certainly you guys can see this is not a huge YouTube channel. This is not like some of the channels you see out there with, you know, 1 million subscribers or 500,000 subscribers or whatever the case might be, where the videos are getting 150,000 views. But compared to what we were doing, where we were averaging 400 to 500 views per video over the past month to two, we're averaging more like over 2,000 views per video. And also keep in mind that subscribers were added at 200 to 250 per month. Now, over the last couple of months, it's been about 1,100 per month. And if you include the Miami channel, more like close to 1,500 per month. So that is thanks to you. I'm not doing anything different. That is you liking the videos, commenting on the videos. This engagement, see, this is what YouTube monitors. They monitor engagement. I don't know how they do it. I don't know to what degree. I don't know what the algorithms and the formula is. But if somebody has 10,000 views on a video, but they only have 33 likes, YouTube credits that differently than if somebody's got 8,000, so a couple less thousand views on the video, but they have 972 likes. YouTube rewards engagement. They reward views. They reward the length of time watching. So if I had a bunch of people watching a video, but they only watched it for 13 seconds and shut it off, YouTube's only going to give me so much credit for that. But if I've got a 10-minute video and people are watching that thing for 8.5 minutes, then YouTube's going to credit me more because of the length of time, the consistent length of time that people are watching the video. Then they also credit the length of time, the views, and the engagement. So when you guys like a video, when you guys comment to a video, that helps. That certainly helps. And I know that the like isn't much. It's just, you just got to click and you're really not engaging, but certainly just please do it. Even if you disagree with me, I say this all the time, even if you disagree with my opinion on that particular video, if you at least believe I've done my homework, I've done my research, I know what I'm talking about, I'm at least logical and at least brought a decent argument to the table, and I'm doing my job, even if you disagree with me, if you like the content we're delivering, then give me a like. And then I can certainly do a much better job, and I've tried to I have looked into this in recent months to provide better titles, better tags, all those things that create more traffic. And in addition to that, there are all sorts of tricks of the trade in terms of the way I should present the videos, the way I need to, like right off the top of the video, you're supposed to grab people's attention. I used to be really good at that. I would come up with a clever line and say, bam, right out of the gate, the Yankees are going down this week to Louisiana Tech, or whatever I would say. That was a dumb example, but I would say something that would grab some attention. And then I'd say, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, blah, blah, blah. And we get into the video. Well, I need to do that a little bit more often, because you're supposed to grab people's attention, draw them in with a clever line, with a bold statement, with a question. And then I need to frame the videos in such a way in which you guys will respond. You know, here's my Clemson, North Carolina State prediction. What do you guys think? And I try to do that. I try to think of that, but sometimes I miss. Justin, thank you. Thank you. I wish I had more to say than thank you, because I am deeply moved. I really am. For people to give up your hard-earned money just so we can do this better. So, Slim Shady Canes, I appreciate it so much. Alonzo put me on, I think your work more. Collabs may help. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Justin, thank you again. You know, and again, it was Joseph as well, and Hound Dog and Slim Shady Canes got us started. So thank you so much. So I outlined for you guys several weeks ago a situation that's going on with the channel right now, that it's being challenged, and I can't really say anything past that. So just keep in mind that it was my intent, and for those of you who have heard my spiel from a couple of weeks ago, I apologize, but for everybody else, they haven't heard it, that at the conclusion of the college football season, it was my aim and intent to buy another PC, production software, new mic, new camera, lighting. I've got lights. I've got professional lights here, but I can do better with the lighting. But mostly camera, PC, production software, and a mic. And that would cost about $4,000 to $5,000, but I could do so much better. We could have an actual call-in show, not this. We could have an actual call-in show where you would see a sponsor and the phone number, and we would have nice graphics, and I could produce a show live with nice graphics and whatever else. I can't show highlights, unfortunately, but everything else. Unfortunately, because my situation, and again, I can't say too much about this, so it's difficult, but just trust me, believe me, I'm a little bit in peril, but I'm still driving 100%, driving hard, as you guys can see with all the videos I'm putting out. I'm just going full steam ahead as if nothing's going on. But the situation here is in a little bit of peril. Therefore, I don't want to invest the $4,000 to $5,000 if I have to go in another direction. But believe me, it is my goal and aspiration and dream to make this thing take off. And I'm going to get that done one way or the other. There are challenges in play and adversity and a situation that's threatening the channel. But this is what I love to do, and I will do it. But that's the only reason that I haven't sunk the money into better production quality stuff. My man, Marty McPadden, from my days at ESPN, which I'm still there, but his days at ESPN, he has left to launch his own company. But he's my guy, and he has certainly been, for as great as all of you have been, and you guys have been amazing in your support. He's the guy that really got me started, first and foremost. He basically said, Mark, you used to be a broadcaster. Now you work behind the scenes as an operations manager, and you can still do this. And look at what everybody's doing on YouTube. Why don't you do that? He saw me do some digital work on ESPN.com, where I was doing some anchoring and hosting and voiceover highlights on ESPN.com. And he said, I didn't know you could do this. Why aren't you doing this for yourself? And I was like, I don't know. He said, YouTube. So that's what got me started. And it should look better than this. I would like to have a better camera, better mic, and all that. But again, I don't want to sink the $4,000 to $5,000 into all that and the production software without that paying off. So hang with me. As long as you can see me and, more importantly, hear me, and it's clear in terms of the audio and the video, we'll keep it right there. We at least have graduated from the blank wall that many of you remember when I was down, way down at the other end of the room, at the other end of my condo. And yes. And we started to buy some helmets. Do you guys have any other suggestions for the set? Should we do anything else? All right, Slim Shady Canes. More Miami gear will certainly be an upgrade. Mark, you keep up company during the off season. Oh, you keep us company. Thanks, Groon. Appreciate that. Hound Dog. Yeah, first step towards professionalism is getting that Google watermark off the screen and put up some fancy graphics. NMD TV. So this is the first time that I've noticed your handle here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Welcome, NMD TV. Thanks for joining us. Why do you use Google Hangouts? So unless I'm missing something here, I'm on YouTube. And it's not making me rich and not paying the bills, but I'm starting to make a little bit of money on YouTube, a little pocket change on YouTube. So that's nice. So everybody comes to YouTube. YouTube, as I understand it, after Google, is the most populated and highest traffic website in the world. So that's why I'm on YouTube. Am I missing something here? And if you're on YouTube and you do a live stream, you've got to do Google Hangouts, right? So that's why I do Google Hangouts. Does that answer your question? Groon, Groon, all right. I can't really respond to that to comment. It's not good for my not good for my situation. Justin, I like Joel, but Mark is like listening to your buddy talk. Joel Klatt, yeah. Like Joel Klatt. I like Joel Klatt as well. The legendary Lurch Logan. Yeah, I really like Joel Klatt. I have actually asked Joel Klatt, not expecting him to come on, but we've had on Phil Steele in the past. The biggest national guys that we've had on is Peter Burns, has come on a regular basis. He's a good friend of mine. Don't want to overstate that. We're not best buddies. Peter Burns is an exceptional guy, such a good guy, great guy, and he's been on probably 20 times. Jerry DiNardo, Phil Steele, and some other guys that I've missed. Taylor Rooks, who's on, SNY now. Used to be on the Big Ten Network. Okay. Chat Sports, use the comment 1 for this or 2 for that trick to create engagement comments to help the video. So let me follow this, Tram. And Tram, I've never seen your handle in the live chat before or in any of the comments. So that means you get the Tram. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Let me see if I follow this. Yeah, Chat Sports. We've had James Yoder on to talk Michigan from Chat Sports. They use the comment 1 for this or 2 for that trick to create engagement. Oh, yeah. So they give you a choice. Who's going to win the game, or is so-and-so on the hot seat, or whatever. And you click 1 or 2. Yeah, a couple of you led me on. A couple of you led me on to the, what's it called? Shoot. NCIS Fanatic. We had the live stream a couple of weeks ago in which we talked about ways to improve the channel. And I wrote down all those notes. I have yet to move on. Some of I did try to work on a few of these things. It's not there. Anyway, it had something to do with the comments or the commentary. There's a commentary section that sounds familiar to where you can run polls. I was not aware that Joel Klatt refers to himself as the voice of college football. So the only reason that I do that, is that somebody referred to me about 6 months ago as the voice of college football. And they didn't even put in the comments section, Mark, hey, you're the voice of college football. They stated it very matter-of-factly. They said, Mark, since you are the voice of college football, blah, 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 blah. And they asked me a question. And I thought, I like that. The Chewmeister, I found you through SD1 Sports collabs. Yeah, Chris over at SD1 Sports is a great guy. He's an exceptional guy, just a stand-up guy who reached out to me sometime in the summer and said, hey, Mark, I would love for you to do college football videos for us over here. You're welcome to do as many as you'd like. And we worked out a little bit of a deal, and I did a lot of videos over there. Tram Dickerson, I found you through Collab. The first show was the Uncle Lou interview. I subscribed ever since. All right, thank you. Chewmeister, I give you credit, Mark. You cover all topics and teams without much bias on this channel. Groon, Mark, you should get a chair sponsor like DX Racer. Slim Shady Canes, Alonzo, put me onto your channel. More collabs, yeah. You know, Volunteer Roadshow reached out to me recently, and I was on his show just a couple of weeks ago. So he was kind enough to say, hey, Mark, I'd like for you to be on my show. And I was on his podcast a couple of weeks ago. If you guys are familiar with I Talk SEC, it's a radio show that's on a series of Florida Coast Panhandle sports radio talk shows. Number of stations along the Louisiana, Alabama, Florida shoreline. And he had me on as a regular, what he called lead analyst for a long time, for about 1.5 years. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. And it just got to be a little too taxing compared to everything else I wanted to do. But we have discussed a little collaboration here recently as well. Tram, thank you. Click like, just encouraging everyone to click the like button. Mark, can you bring a Stanford beat writer to talk about Stanford? Okay, Groon. So Don King from Last Word on College Football has been our Stanford guy since I started bringing people on here. So keep in mind that for the first 3 years that I did this is what you got all the time. It was just nothing but me all the time. And nobody complained. It wasn't as though anybody called in and said or wrote in and said, you previewed the Wisconsin-Michigan game and you're an idiot. You don't know anything about the Badgers and the Wolverines. You need to bring a guest on. Nobody ever brought that up. Never heard that. People were fine with me. I was just deep into analysis and researching the teams before I said anything about anything. Now I come on here and I just let it fly because I bring guests on. Because it hit me at one point. I thought, okay, if I bring a Michigan guy on, and even though I know Michigan football and I watch 7 or 8 games a year, he really knows Michigan football. He can talk about the left guard and the inside linebacker position battle. He can talk Michigan football all day, way beyond me. So I gain credibility because I've got a top-notch guest on. I also can have him tweet it out and reach the people that he influences. And then also, if he's got a website, maybe he'll post that video on his website, like Steve Hellwagon from 247 Sports, Bucknuts does on a regular basis. He takes our video here and he posts it on Bucknuts. I used to have a slew of SB Nation people that did that for me. So it's amazing that my views have gone way up. Actually, 3-4 years ago, I used to have the Georgia Tech, Miami, Clemson, Virginia Tech, North Carolina. Who else? Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I could name a bunch of other ones. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Texas, USC. All those SB Nation sites used to post my videos. And so my views would go way up for those particular videos. But now nobody posts my videos except for Steve Hellwagon at Bucknuts. And that's fine because my videos are doing much better. But that was the reason I went the guest route was, number one, credibility. You know, I can only speak so much to a particular team because I'm trying to cover everyone at the same time so I can get the nuts and bolts guy that follows that team every day. And then secondly, they can broaden the scope, broaden the reach, get the video out there to other people that I don't know, that don't know me. That's all to say that we did have a Stanford guy, Donald King from Last Word on College Football, to talk Stanford football. And he's out of the business. He still follows Stanford heavily, and we have him on a regular basis. So, Groon, what I would ask you is that if you can put in the comments section, not in the live chat because I'll miss it, Groon, if you would put in any of the comment section of any of the videos, what Stanford guest you would like to see. Everybody else, if you want to see a guest cover a particular team or a particular topic, then you put their name in the comment section and I will go after them. Somebody this week wanted Texas and Auburn football coverage, and I went out and I got, can't think of his name, Joe Hunk. Joe Hunk? I forget his first name, but did a great job. Montgomery, Alabama radio station to come on and talk Auburn football. And then I went out and got a couple 247 sports guys, EJ Holland and Mike Roach, to talk Texas football. So we got those covered. And all of them said, hey, I'll come back anytime, all the time. Boom. So we got Texas covered. We got Auburn covered. If you follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, you know that in the last couple of days, I've said I need USC guests. I need Nebraska guests. I need Wisconsin guests. I need Texas A&M guests. Please. So anybody that you guys suggest, I will try to get them on. What's probably more effective is if you tag them in a tweet. If you contact them and say, I watch Mark Rogers TV all the time, and I would like to see you on Mark Rogers TV. That's probably more effective than me saying, hey, I want you on my show. Maryland. So MCD for sports, what do you need to do? Sorry, MCD sports for, what do you need to do? Give me a Maryland guy or lady, Maryland person to talk to. Miami hasn't been in Super Bowl in 40 years. Huh? 40? Has it been 40? The last Super Bowl the Dolphins were in were the 1985 Super Bowl. So it's been, 34 years. The Bama coverage is solid. Thank you. I cried when Miami lost a while back at the Super Bowl. Ask Bobby Durkins. Okay. Again, it's going to be more effective, and I'm not going to miss the comments if you put them in the actual comments section to the videos. Do you guys shop at Amazon? If you shop at Amazon, please just go to the comments section, the description section of any of the videos. Any of the videos, go to any of the videos, go to the description section, grab the Amazon link right there, and just enter Amazon using that link, and you will help us when you shop at Amazon, help us here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You don't have to buy the product. You're going to see a product there. Forget that. Unless you want it, forget it. Just shop. Thank you. Hound Dog. Mark, who is the biggest and baddest and best hog molly going into the 2019 draft? My Vikings need to address the offensive line desperately. Mark, when are you starting schedules? All right. I cannot sit here and address offensive linemen. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Hound Dog. You know that I deliver a lot, but I just, no, I'm not running through offensive linemen right now. Jonah Williams is a stud. Grab him. He is generally rated as the top offensive lineman coming out. Jonah Williams. Stanford, USC, UCF. The Stanford non-conference schedule this year is brutal. UCF, Northwestern, Notre Dame. Crazy good. Jawan Taylor. Yep. Starting schedule. So, Grund, here's the plan. In addition to covering spring practice and recruiting, National Signing Day, and in addition to any news that breaks, my thought at this point is that I'm going to be rolling out, starting on Monday morning, my conference rankings videos. So that's going to be a series of probably 7 videos, which is going to be a video to explain the process, and then the 5 conferences, and then a wrap-up video to compare all the conferences and deliver my final results. So there's a 7-part video series there. Then I would like to rank the coaches. I did this a couple years ago. I gave you my top 10 coaches in college football. Then I also ranked the coaches in every conference. That was fun. That took a while, though. Got a call coming in. And then I want to get to the schedules. And what I would like to do with the schedules is, in the past, I have ranked all the schedules. So I've analyzed all the schedules and I've ranked them from 68 all the way up to number 1 in the Power 5. In addition to that, this year, I want to also give you a projected record for every team. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's MCD Sports 4.
Of course it is. How are you, man?
How are you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Glad to see you doing a show. A few things. One, I want to congratulate you on 8,000 subscribers. I saw that.
Thank you.
So, just want to congratulate you on that.
8142. Go ahead.
Yep. Yep. Point number 2, I'll try to find somebody that could do like mail-in analysis. I have a few contacts and ties. I could try to see what I could do on that for you.
Great.
Like,
I appreciate it.
I can't guarantee anything. Can't guarantee anything.
A long time ago, we used to have a Maryland guy on from the SB Nation site, whatever that was called. I don't remember their name, but the SB Nation Maryland site guy used to, Testudo Times. He used to come on all the time.
Man. Yeah. I know I'm annoyed at the Maryland fan on YouTube on these group chats and stuff. But the main reason why I'm calling you today, Mark, is because I want to get your intake on these Week 1 games in 2019.
Oh, boy. Let's look them up here.
Matchups.
All right.
Yeah, like, because I looked them up, some like kind of like the big non-conference games, and I wasn't really like amazed by them. Or like, to me, there's not really like that like big-time game you could circle and be like, watch it. Like last year, Auburn, Washington was one that you could just look at. I know a few years ago, Florida State, Alabama, at the time, everybody thought that Florida State was going to be a good team in Jimbo's last year before we went to Texas A&M. So,
yep.
To me, there's just not like that one like big game. Like you have decent games like Miami, Florida, Auburn, Oregon, but you don't have like that one like big game.
I hear you. Well, let's look at it. So Just to get this one out of the way, the previous Saturday, August 24th, we've got one of those Hawaii games as Arizona runs out there to play over the ocean against Hawaii. Then on Thursday night, August 29th, we've got Utah at BYU. And I know on a national scale that game doesn't really move the needle, but it is a very hated and bitter and intense rivalry. Utah playing at BYU. Last year, BYU jumped out to a 20-0 lead in that game, and the Utes came back and beat the Cougars. Let's see, on that Thursday night, we also have Georgia Tech and Clemson. Probably the most notable thing about that game is that is going to be the launch of the ACC network. That game is going to be the first game and first telecast on the ACC network, Georgia Tech at Clemson, but you would expect Clemson's going to be a 25-point favorite. All right, on Friday night, we've got a bunch of, group of 5 teams playing, the likes of Michigan State and Rutgers, and really, this could be a good game. And again, it's not in the Alabama-Florida State realm, but in terms of a competitive, intriguing game, Utah State's taking on Wake Forest. That could be interesting. Anyway, then the annual Colorado State opener is on that Friday as well. All right, Saturday. UCLA is going to try to get some payback at Cincinnati. Fresno State takes on USC. That could be a tough challenge for the Trojans. Marquee matchups. Let's see here. Let's see. Louisiana Tech, Texas. Yeah, I'm not seeing much of anything. I see your Maryland Terps are taking on Howard. Alabama and Duke. Why those two teams are playing, I have no idea. I have no issue with Alabama playing Duke. That's fine. That's great. But they should be playing somebody else as well. That should not be their marquee game. That's ridiculous. Okay, as you mentioned, Auburn and Oregon at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. So that is kind of the LSU-Miami game of this year, is Auburn-Oregon. It's going to probably be a primetime game. And Florida-Miami, as you mentioned, another somewhat big game, depending on what they do later in the season. Ole Miss at Memphis is an okay game. And South Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina is a decent team. And, all these games intrigue me just because I'm nuts about college football. But if you're talking about, marquee games, no, there aren't any. Florida State, Boise State will be interesting. Georgia Vanderbilt already playing an SEC game in week 1. Virginia and Pitt, which decided the ACC Coastal this year, they're already playing in week 1. Virginia Tech and Boston College. That's a key game in the ACC Coastal in particular, already playing an ACC game early. You know what game I want to see is Northwestern at Stanford. I would like to see that one too. So if you could watch any game that weekend, what game would you watch?
Usually the way I watch college football is I get up at like 8:30, watch college game day, and then at 12 o'clock, I probably watch about 4 or 5 games a day, like straight up.
I'm right there with you.
But I'll definitely try to get the Auburn, Oregon, and the Miami, Florida game to watch that. I'll probably take a look at my Terps game, at the Terps.
Sure.
Howard. We get Syracuse that following week. I'll probably watch that whole one. Northwestern Stanford's probably one I would probably watch.
Yep.
And I wouldn't watch Alabama Duke. I wouldn't watch that one most likely. But the two big marquee matchup games that are bigger than any of the games in week 1 or in week 2 and week 4, LSU goes to Texas and Notre Dame goes to Georgia.
Yep.
Those to me are the two big ones. I wish those games were in week 1. But definitely probably the two biggest ones there, Auburn, Oregon, and Florida, Miami. Those would probably be ones I would definitely watch. Definitely.
Yeah.
And that Virginia Pitt game, though, probably be another one. I think Virginia's winning the Coastal this upcoming season, so I would like to see them play.
Yeah, so I'm with you. The two games that stand out are the two games that I'm going to watch for sure would be Florida, Miami, and Oregon and Auburn. And then after that, yeah, I like the Northwestern Stanford game. And what was the other game you mentioned? There was another game that was really good. Virginia Pitt, and also Florida State and Boise State intrigues me. So I want to watch that game.
Probably watch too.
Yeah, I want to see if Florida State can get their act together.
I don't think they will. I think Boise State's going to beat them, though. But I think Virginia is going to win that Coastal. So that's why I want to watch the Virginia Pitt game, because I think Virginia has a very good shot to win that Coastal division and go ahead and get Clemson, probably get their butts whooped. But ACC championship game is a big game no matter what, even though I mean, it's tough to say. It is. But I was very disappointed with the week one matchups, just looking at first glance. But hopefully there are a lot of good games.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the best teams in the country are not playing each other, but there's certainly enough intriguing matchups for me to be satisfied with that week. You know, there are 6 or 7 games that I would like to see out of that slate of games.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, I don't know, like, Auburn, Oregon to me is kind of like, you're right, it's like Miami, LSU, but Auburn's like the LSU and Miami's like the Oregon, because to me, Oregon's going to be very good this year. But I don't know. To me, Auburn's like a 7-5 team this upcoming year. So, I mean, it is Auburn, but still, I mean, I don't know. That game just never. That game's just not like really intriguing me. Like, I'll watch it, but I don't know. Like how good Auburn's going to be. But probably Florida Miami is the best game in week one. Would you say Florida Miami is the best game in week one?
Yeah, I guess if I could only watch one game, just because of the uniqueness of those two teams getting together and the rivalry and so forth, I would give it the slight edge over Auburn, Oregon, if I could only watch one game. But if I can watch two, those are the two games. And then after that, against, again, as you mentioned, Northwestern Stanford, and there was one other game that you threw out that I thought was good, and I can't remember it right now. But anyway, those are the games that I'm. Yeah, it was Pitt, Virginia, but there was another game in there. But anyway, those are the games that I'm going to watch. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, man.
You go, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll see you. All right. I think we've done enough damage. I don't see any more comments in the live chat, although I am having all sorts of issues with this MacBook. That's a MacBook Pro. This is a MacBook Air. Yes. And I've had it for a long, long time, and maybe it's on its last leg because it keeps scaring me, because I think that I'm offline because it keeps locking up and going down, but I'm fine here. So I don't know what the issue is, and that's hurt my live chat monitoring. So one more call for the super chat. If you got anything for me, I appreciate it. And you guys have been amazing with your comments and your questions and your debate and everything that you provided. The calls have been exceptional, and I appreciate it. Let me check this out one more time and see what you guys are talking about, because I'm going to have to go to my phone because it's not popping up for me. It's very odd. Justin likes Northwestern Stanford. Joseph, Mark, from an advertising standpoint, at Big Play, we get a bunch of startup companies that sponsors. That way they get advertising and we get sponsors for our shows. Joseph, I will tell you this. If you have any ideas like this for me, hopefully you're still on the line here, Joseph, just hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. MarkRogersTV at Gmail. And we can discuss it there. Thanks, Joseph. Devin, big shout out to Big Willie in Tallahassee. Christopher, Notre Dame has next to zero chance to run the table or go 11-1. Again, 10-2 maybe. Schumeister, keep Malzahn as head coach. Auburn needs to stay mediocre. Kane for Life has Manny and the Canes back in the ACC championship game. I apologize for you guys not knowing the number. Again, we talked about the whole production software business and that I would display it here. That's why I try to put it in the live chat as much as possible. 860-325-3687. Although I'm going to get off the line here very shortly, I think we have covered it. For as much as I do not want the Patriots to win the Super Bowl, I believe they will. I've not given it any thought, analysis, not broken it down in any way, shape, or form. The Rams might be a slightly more talented team, more athletic. I just have to think that New England's going to win the game. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me either way. It's obviously a bit of a toss-up. The game's like a 2-point spread. I'm going to officially pick the Patriots to win the game 31-27. All right. I will be slightly rooting for the Rams, but will generally not care who wins the game. I wanted to see the Chiefs and the Saints, and I believe that they were both, in a different way, robbed. And we should be watching those two teams play. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Stick around for ACC schedules. Also, stick around for more recruiting news coming out. More Miami talk. We've got the Wholesome One coming your way, and a number of videos from Cam Underwood that have yet to be released as well. Also coming up starting on Monday are my Power 5 conference rankings, the formula of weighing all the results from 2018. And then by request, we will get to the schedules. I'm going to rank all the schedules and give you projected records for every team in FBS play. I'm going to rank the Power 5, but I'll give you all the FBS teams. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Share the videos, like the videos, comment, get them out there in social media so we can grow this channel all together. Right here at Mark Rogers TV. We'll see you soon. Hopefully this didn't happen to everyone else, but I'm getting a notification at the bottom of the chat that the chat was disconnected. I don't know if that was the entire chat or just, it looks like it was because the last comment's been from a while ago. That's kind of odd. That it's kind of odd that I'm fine here. All right, everyone. We will see you guys soon. And I missed a few of these comments because the live chat locked up. But again, Joseph, hit me up at Mark Rogers TV, Mark Rogers TV at Gmail, and we'll talk about it there. Thank you so much for your generosity, everybody. We'll see you soon.